Assalamu alaikum. Oh my goodness. Oh man. It is very late. So, Jazakallah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. How are you? I know it's very late, but I had an epiphany. Really wasn't an epiphany. It's more like I just finally realized, kind of like, oh no, the shelf is cleaned off because I'm moving soon. So that's why a lot of this stuff is like leaving. Um, so I had an epiphany. And well, like I said, it's something I've kind of known for a while, but I really never thought about it until now. And I just wanted to kind of like vent slightly. And I wanted to hear your thoughts. So, what you think that I think, if my thinking is correct, because I think it is. But so I didn't see that full debate yet, Mortaz. Um, that's fine if you're honest. It's good. So it's my so after work, I came home, did everything that I need to do, chores, etc. And it's not beef necessarily. It just is something that I realized. Um, and somebody was asking me about a debate that happened. It wasn't the recent one; it was the one before that. It was the one with Matt Dillahunty, and I've never really agreed with Matt Dillahunty on anything. So I'm gonna go. But I started watching this clip, and then I'm like, okay, I need to understand the context. So then I started watching other clips, and then eventually I just sat down and watched the whole thing. Not the whole thing. I think I've watched up to like an hour. Okay, and I already came to a number of conclusions regarding the performance in that debate of the Muslim side. But then I realized that I'm not allowed to say anything about it for a number of reasons. Number one, because well, actually, so here's the main reason. So first, let me just tell you generally what I thought. I thought, without any personal feelings whatsoever, just as somebody objectively looking at the evidence as a philosophy major, somebody who has a master's degree in philosophy, I think the Muslim side did terrible, absolutely terrible. Assalamu alaikum. And the atheist was actually correct about their criticisms. Now, here's the funny thing. Even though I knew that to be true and I have evidence and good reasons to prove that, I found out that I'm not allowed to do that, not because of fanboys, but because there's this perception within our community that if you oppose certain individuals or you criticize them or you assume that they didn't do well, you are a traitor. You're a munafiq. You're not a real Muslim. Just because you're trying to tell the truth about something. Oh, it's not subjective. There were legitimate fallacious arguments that were made that were the performance. I can provide evidence of that through like peer-reviewed papers and stuff that it was wrong. Even like, so for example, the idea that intuition is evidence, that's not true. It's just not. Now you can agree that it provides warrant or justification, epistemic warrant or justification for a particular position, but does not count as evidence. And it's never been defined as such within the epistemic tradition. So yeah, that's incorrect. As somebody who has a master's degree in philosophy, and epistemology was my primary field. So intuition can be regarded as a means to proving rationality or warrant for a belief. It does not necessarily mean that it's evidence. Evidence is external to intuition. It's and they're contingent on certain factors. So intuition itself is not an evidence of anything. It's just a starting point. It's like a default, right? That can be utilized. Yes, it can provide a default position, but defaults are not necessarily true. They're just more rational to believe in. And that's the argument that I've made consistently throughout my career as a philosopher, et cetera, right? It is related to fitra. So, and as you know, if you read my papers, you'll know that. They can gambit, but let's not relativize factual information, because what occurred in that specific example was that intuition was redefined and evidence was redefined. Even within philosophy, there are things that we agree on in terms of definitions. It is the finer points that we disagree on in terms of like, oh, what, how do we approach this? What's the proper methodology, et cetera. So, for example, in this debate in particular, you had somebody who was following more of a foundationalist approach or phenomenal conservatism, okay, which is something that I do, right, and is that I follow. And then you had an evidentialist, right? The problem with the debate was that the Muslim side accepted the initial debate parameters, that is there evidence for God, as a point to win or lose. See, because I would have said, no, there's no evidence for God. And that's not a problem because there are other means to warrant a belief. What he did was redefine evidence and then say intuition is evidence, which is nonsensical. So what the atheist was arguing against, that he's changing the topic or that he was not on topic, was actually correct. So yeah, that was a problem. I would say there's no evidence for God in the sense of how it is defined by evidentialists. And I would say that intuition, even if you define it in a different way, would not count as evidence. And it doesn't have to be. That's the thing. It doesn't have to, because there are other ways that we warrant our beliefs. So, for example, also, there was a constant there's a constant straw man of the atheist position with regard to that, in that he was accused of scientism when he admitted that he does not verify, or should I say, he does not justify particular beliefs through empiricism. So, for example, when he mentioned the logical laws of, axioms, right? Like the law of non-contradiction, he said, I don't verify that empirically. I verify that based on its practical application and its consistency of how it's, through its use. So he was using pragmatism actually as a means to verify logical, and that's a completely different position from scientism, right? And Daniel consistently kept saying that, no, you're contradicting yourself because you said it has to be empirical. And even though the atheist Matt was like, no, I'm telling you, I don't use that standard for these things. Does that make sense? Like, that doesn't. So he was denying scientism by bringing up a pragmatic approach to justification. And the other side, Daniel, was like, no, you're being a scientismist, basically. And it's like, no, he wasn't. And the thing is, I can't make a video or make a critique of that, because then I'd be seen as a traitor for pointing out facts, right? So I'm just saying, I saw the debate and the part of that debate already. And I was just like, this is stupid. Why is he not getting it? Like, being dishonest by the implications of one's worldview, I mean, still, you can still judge the accuracy of the arguments being made, right? So the point that I'm trying to make, see, that's the point. It's like, I can't publicize this because telling the truth is being a traitor. Yeah. So it's like, you have to see, this is the problem that I come to realization, is that so many Muslims online are more concerned about identity than truth. They follow identity politics more than they follow principles. So it's like, it doesn't matter if the other side did bad, if your side did bad. What matters is that it appears that they dominated, and you have to support them 100% regardless, because they're a Muslim. And I'm just like, no, I can't do that because that means that I have to throw away facts. I have to throw away my integrity, and I can't do that. Um, so, but I know for a fact if I came out and like, and I started like listing all this stuff like in an official video or something like, and I started reviewing it like other people do, I would get called out as a monaphic. They would say that I'm a traitor, that I'm being emotional, that I just don't like Daniel for no reason. And I'd be like, no, here's the evidence. And they'd be like, no, that doesn't count because you're opposing the Muslim and you have to support the Muslim no matter what. And it's just like, no, I don't actually, because I have principles and my principles are not dependent on people. They're dependent on Allah. So, but apparently that's not a thing anymore. I would debate it, Dillahunty. In fact, um, I actually did a long time ago. Well, not like word to word. We debated in his blog a while back. So when I was much younger, um, it was actually respectful. But yeah, it was actually about the whole epistemic standard thing. See, the thing is, if he wanted to go down the route, excuse me, it's late, the route for what is it, challenging the epistemic standards of Matt Dillahunty, the best thing that you could have done would have been to reframe the debate as is evidence of God necessary? That's what I would have done. And then that whole entire spiel about intuition would have been more valid. That said, I think that the delivery of the argument was incorrect. Um, I think that was a huge problem because the understanding of what intuition is was problematic because it's not evidence. So I don't think that Matt, even if he may have been pedantic, I don't think he was incorrect to challenge the point that it was an incorrect analysis to make, and that it was in fact irrelevant. And I do believe that he was strawmanned on a number of occasions during at least the first the first hour. See, I'm reading the chat too. The first hour of that discussion. Because it was, I mean, the other side, the Muslim side, continuously asserted that he was contradicting himself when he was simply stating that he categorizes different things and has different epistemic standards for those things. So when it came to logic, he was using a pragmatic approach. And as a pragmatist, as a philosophical pragmatist, I understood exactly what he was saying, because he was like, it's demonstrably consistent in that it provides results, which is exactly what a pragmatist would say with respect to validating any particular axiom, right? Or any position. And then at the same time, he would say, but when it comes to other things that require empirical evidence, he requires that. So he wasn't a scientismist. Although I do believe that his standard for judging God's existence was wrong, he was correct to correct Daniel and to insist that the topic was being veered off. Okay, I think that was correct. Absolutely. I would have, if I was told that during the debate, I would have said, yes, that is correct. It is a red herring what I'm doing, or I'm not understanding what's going on. So that's what would have been my approach. I think that first off, the debate was not structured properly to begin with. I think that either because of incompetence on one side or because they were expecting to just get away with saying whatever they wanted to, but it was not proper. I mean, it was wrong to accept the premise that is there evidence for God, or that question, because I would have said no. Like personally, how would it, especially if I'm relying on the epistemic standard of foundationalism or phenomenal conservatism, which is what Daniel was relying on, because intuition is not counted as evidence from those perspectives, and I don't think from any perspective, from that matter. No, I don't think he got smoked. I think he actually did much better because he actually stayed on topic, and I think that he actually challenged, and I think that the other side made massive errors and strawman the other side horribly. It was just you lost at the first round. So regardless of whether I agree with Matt or not, I can still objectively say that because it's just true, factually speaking. I don't have to provide any emotional content for that. I can provide evidence in terms of academic source material. So I think it was a very bad debate. So far, I mean, I don't know if I'll complete the whole thing, but within the first hour, it's very apparent to me that the Muslim side had no idea what he was doing. It's so bad. Yeah, I think it is appropriate. That's the problem, Lokit, is that there wasn't any definition really of many terms from the beginning. There was some attempt, there was some vague attempt. That said, again, because the way that the first part was set up, it was kind of irrelevant even because even if you define evidence, there is no standard there's no standard definition of evidence that would include intuition. That's what I'm trying to say. And if you want to challenge evidentialism as a justification for believing God, then that should be the premise of the first part of the debate. It shouldn't be, is there evidence for God? Because then you saying, well, let's look at what evidence is, and your standard of evidence is weird and blah blah blah. It's like, okay, well, that's a kind of a secondary point. So then, and if that's what you want to focus on, then why did you frame it that way? You see what I'm saying? So I mean, that's my perspective. Look, and I'll be frank, I think that there were some good points brought up by the Muslim side with respect to challenging the epistemic standards, especially at later points. But I think that they were used in a way that was, what's the word? Essentially a red herring. I felt that they were not relevant to what the main point was. Do you see what I'm saying? I think that it was more of a distraction because after the Muslim side realized, I think they did realize that they were veering off topic. They tried to kind of redirect the conversation so it wasn't apparent. But for those of us who are trained in philosophy, it was very apparent. So I don't think he would rebut them. He's never rebutted me to begin with. So I mean, there's nothing to rebut. These are facts. I mean, I'm not giving my opinion here. I'm giving factual information, which I earned, understanding of through getting a master's degree in the field. And again, that doesn't make me perfect, but I mean, you can look this all stuff right now if you want. So, but this is not fully an opinion, bro. As an expert in the field, this is not a fully opinion, bro. This is called facts. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna sit here and act like it's an opinion. It's not an opinion. So you can take it as it is. If you want to disagree, feel free. You have your right to do that, but you should provide some reasoned argument. And if you can't, then there's no point to what you're saying. So I provided actual rational argument, and you didn't provide anything. So just saying. 1 + 1 = 2 is not an opinion. It's a fact. Yes. I don't think he was that sloppy. He was pretty consistent. I don't agree with him, again, on his position, but he was very consistent. So I did see some other clips that I thought were kind of ludicrous. One in particular was a drama-related one. Oh no, he's made a lot worse blunders. It's just that the reason I brought it up as a for context was because I realized that I can't say that. I really can't say anything anymore because I'm not allowed to. Because we have certain people within the community that gatekeep like essentially like, oh, you disagreed with the performance of the person that we think owned everyone, and you're just jealous and you're upset and you're emotional and you're a monophic and you're this or that. We don't want to accept any criticism because, that means that you're a traitor because your identity is more important than telling the truth. So keep your mouth shut because this is the mafia. It's like, okay. I just think it's interesting. I think it's really interesting because it has been kind of circling in my mind, like wondering, like one of my like contentions I really haven't been able to get out, and I'm kind of just admitting it to myself, kind of like it's kind of cathartic that I'm saying like, oh yeah, so that's basically the reason why I can't really say anything is because there's sort of this group think now, as you said, Mookie, that it's like it's impossible to state anything factually because if it's opposed to somebody that's within a community that's considered to be like a champion or something, then it's like it's haram. It's like we have created these imaginary, bid'ah like boundaries where we're not allowed to discuss things properly. So I don't care who the home team or the opposing team is, as long as one of them is telling the truth. I will very much oppose a Muslim if they're lying or they're wrong, because I don't care. For me, what matters most is the principles. It doesn't matter what your identity is. If an atheist tells the truth, I will commend them for that, and I'll be, yeah, that's true. I'll just say that. And if a Muslim is lying, I'll say that person's lying because they're lying. So that's me, which is probably why I'm not very popular on this scene. So I've never been popular as a result of that. So I did notice something else in that, which was really interesting. So there was this like drama thing. What happened with like the whole what was it? Oh, say that to my face. You saw that clip? And I was thinking to myself, like, so I was thinking to myself, and then okay, so like then Matt approached after that happened, and then it was framed like Matt was the aggressor, and I didn't understand why. Because as an American, I don't know how this is in other cultures. Okay, I'll be frank. I think it's pretty universal, but in the American culture, if you tell somebody, or you say that to my face, you're implying that you will hit them if they say it to your face. That's basically an implied threat. Okay. So, and then when Matt came up to him, I was just like, so he's basically calling your bluff, right? That's a physical challenge, exactly. So I was wondering, like, why are people like saying, oh, Matt was being aggressor? I'm like, no, because when somebody says, say that to my face, they're implying they're going to hurt you if you say it to their face. So why are you framing it that way? Like, that doesn't make, like, don't say that unless you want to get into a fight. Like, if you walked on the street today, downtown Chicago or Atlanta or anywhere in the United States, and you went up to somebody, you get in a fight with them, right? And you say, hey, say that to my face. That person automatically knows you want to fight them physically. That's exactly what it means. So I don't understand why that was like framed as though the atheist was being aggressive. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you say that even to begin with? I think that's kind of disgusting. So so stuff like that happened, and I saw some, I don't know, I haven't seen the other clips the person sent me, but whatever. But yeah, so it was really, but the first hour was really embarrassing. Yeah, I saw the clip. He's like, I think Matt was like, shut the F up or something. And then Daniel was like, say that to my face. And then Matt was like, okay. And he got up and walked over there. And Daniel was like, sit down, sit down. I'm like, don't tell somebody to say it to your face unless you want to fight them. Like, so either he's ignorant about what that means, or He's just being a troll because you don't say that to somebody unless you are willing to throw hands. Like, you know what I mean? Like if I walked up to you guys right now and like if we had an argument and I said, say it to my face, you should know at that point that I'm willing to hit you. Does that make sense? That's the American context, at least. I don't know, you know. Any general life advice? Don't say that those things to people unless you want to fight them. At least not in the United States. That's a bad idea. so, um, so yeah, the stuff like this I saw was really ridiculous. So, anyways, I haven't seen the recent debate. I don't think I'm gonna see the whole thing. I might. I heard it was really good. Um, but whatever. Only 80%. I'll take the number. I'll take it. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty universal. Maybe I didn't. It's pretty universal if you say it to my face. That means you're about to hit him, right? Um, oh, I'm going to be honest about that, Chickna. I have lost all respect for these individuals in terms of their support for people being very Machiavelli. I have no respect for them anymore at all. Um, so, whatever. That's their problem. They want to play those games. That's their problem. But yeah, so that was my realization. All of this is leading up to that point was that my realization is that one of the reasons that I was so frustrated is because it became very apparent to me that I can't tell the truth anymore because many of the Muslims on the scene don't want to hear it. That's not what they're looking for. They're looking for domination. They're looking for a win, Pyrrhic victories. They're not really concerned with actual, even like I was watching some of the in that clip. There was like this the chat on the like you were watching right this right. Um, what is it? The chat on the right side, right? And I was seeing like every time that Matt was explaining like basic logical concepts, they were like, he's waffling. And I'm like, oh, he's lost the debate because he's talking so much. And I'm thinking to myself, like, how intellectually lazy can you be to make that comment? That sounds exactly what Islamophobes say every time that we try to explain stuff, right? Um, well, I mean, the thing is, it's not just about people pleasing. It's like it's the whole idea too. Is like this has become the mainstream within the Dawa scene online, in that this is the behavior that is expected. Like, um, it's just they don't care. They have here's how I'm going to say it. They're going to call me a traitor for pointing these things out and making criticisms and saying that it's not good enough, or saying that there are problems, and saying that there's a lack of integrity and principle and honor, etc. But I think it's funny that they think that I'm a traitor, because I see them as traitors. Because you're right, I am a traitor to them because I'm loyal to my principles, but they're a traitor to their principles. So who is the real traitor here? Because you know I'm not overgeneralizing. Uh, I'm not even part of the circus show anymore. I'm just watching. Um, but yeah, I think it's ludicrous. I don't know much about that guy, Middle Nation. Um, but no, you gotta understand. Like, people send me this stuff, and sometimes I just watch it and try to figure out what's going on, and it just becomes more and more extreme every day, and it's just sad. a lot of young kids, young kids like teenagers and below, they don't need this content. What they need are sincere people who will treat them in an adult manner and guide them and teach them properly, and help them with their doubts. Um, those young kids who are getting their socks off watching this stuff are not getting any benefit. They're getting sort of this false sense of pride built upon very shoddy foundations, and this sort of, you know, grandstanding and machismo and things. It looks entertaining, but then you got to take a step back. So, okay, so let's say that, let me give you a hypothetical, right? Um, I know Shahid. I know of him. We don't talk though. Like, I know of him, but not very much, so I can't make any comments. So let me put it this way. Okay, let's make a hypothetical. Okay, everyone, because I'm moving. That's the reason. Let's assume that every single debate has been won and will be won by a Muslim on YouTube, on MDD or something. Okay, let's say that all of these debates that are done between all these podcast people and YouTubers, vloggers, etc. Let's imagine that. Okay. Oh, it does, very much so. It applies to him a lot. Okay. So so let's assume that. Okay, let's everyone assume that every debate from before and up to the point, to this point in the future, we win all the debates. Okay. Let me ask you all a sincere question. All right. If you take a step back from the YouTube microcosm and you look at the world around you, all right, look at the world around you. How are Muslim societies doing? Are we still economically viable? How is our education systems? How is the general populations doing? How is our healthcare systems? Are our military strong enough to fight? What kind of actual power do we have? What kind of actual power, influence, and well-being do we have within our communities? If you win all of these debates, what has changed? Because we may kick their asses, excuse my French, in debates, but in the real world, we're getting our asses kicked. Right? So as a young person who's attracted to this stuff, what is it doing? Empowering to do what, though? Because I don't see these kids doing anything but making memes all day and bothering people online. I mean, in fact, if you look at a lot of the fan base of this sort of debate culture, they're like online in a obsessive manner, as though they're not actually doing anything to change anything. Um, I don't see it. Um, I mean, the number of people is not what we should be concerned with. With the number of Muslims is not what we should be concerned with. It should be the quality. So let's assume, for example, that we get more youth in the masjid because of online debates. Okay, good, alhamdulillah. But let's imagine that their entire understanding of Islam revolves around, kind of the red pillish, kind of memeish dawah. And those people start going in and disrupting and kind of like bashing the scholars and anyone who disagrees with them, and start trying to dictate how things are going to be and start causing a bunch of fitna. Let's also imagine that these individuals start to utilize their very toxic behavior as a means to promote Islam, quote unquote, in the real world. Because let me tell you my personal experience with these people. Not that I've interacted with them very much in real life, but I know the people. Let me put it this way: the youth that I counsel that are losing their faith are the ones who are affected by these people the most. Let me just put it that way. Um, uh, because let me tell you, one of the number one reasons a lot of kids I talk to is because they're abused by other Muslims, verbally, emotionally. They're treated like garbage. A lot of the sisters that I have to counsel, young girls, like young kids, they're treated like crap. That's one of the main reasons they have doubts about Islam is because they're treated like crap. It's not because they go to school. Um, I'm not pessimistic. I'm a realist, and I think that it's delusional to assume that the sort of Pyrrhic victories we have online in debates are indicative of what's actually happening in the real world. Because the moment a Muslim steps off the computer and goes outside, they're inferior in terms of everything else. In terms of what I mean, in terms of the worldly stuff, like the online stuff doesn't do anything. I do agree that debates can be helpful for like intellectual discussion and sort of like helping to relieve certain types of doubts. But the way that they're conducted is in such a way that they're so academically lacking and so intellectually lacking that I feel like they are providing a temporary solution to a lot of problems. So, for example, if you feel, let's say, invigorated by a debate, but if the arguments being utilized in that debate aren't good, then in reality, you're just putting like a band-aid on that will eventually fall off, or at least be washed away by something much more damaging, right? And that was what happened with the whole scientific miracles thing, right? That was initially a very powerful way to draw people back to Islam, but then it backfired tremendously in the future. 10 years later, we have a lot of people using that as justification for leaving the faith. Um, oh, it backfired. It's lonely at the top. I have no intention of going. It has nothing to do. It's just I just don't feel like it. I mean, it's interesting. I still like intellectualizing. I still like thinking about things and arguments and debates and like in terms of like, oh, what would have been a proper way to say things. And I enjoy it because it's full philosophy. That's something that I've always loved, right? And philosophy is all about discourse. It's all about communication and how arguments are made. So I've always been interested in that. But I don't want to be part of that drama and that culture, because a lot of people I used to have a lot of respect for have lost my respect because they don't care about the things that I care about. It's not a personal preference. It's like I truly believed in my heart when I came to Islam that one of the biggest virtues, if not the biggest virtue, was to have integrity and honesty and love of truth. And despite my own flaws, I tried to adhere to that as much as I possibly could, and I respected anyone who adhered to that, even if they weren't Muslim. And I have just found consistently throughout the last 2 or 3 years, a lot of people who I thought embodied that just discarded it the moment that it was not convenient for them. Um, and yeah, so that's it. I don't feel empathy anymore because I don't think there's an excuse. I think that uh, Unreal Engine 5 is very convoluted. I prefer Godot. I'm not trying to dismiss them for one flaw. I'm dismissing them for a purposeful, consistent lack of concern and apathy towards this issue because I have been warning them and advising them about this for over a year. And each time they tell me, we understand what you're saying. We agree with you. And then they do the exact opposite thing. And I'm like, are you just trying to appease me in a conversation and then suddenly you go and do the other thing? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Um, yeah, I truly believe they're doing it deliberately. I mean, I've had a lot of personal conversations with these people, and they keep lying. Like, it's just, or they just don't care. After they tell me they're going to do something and then they don't do it. So the primary justification that I've gotten after I go back to ask, like, what happened, like, why did you do this thing, was we need to focus on the bigger problem. And I'm like, okay, what was the bigger problem? We have to deal with these kuffar and these Islamophobes. And I'm like, I understand what your concern is, but if you go about it the wrong way, it doesn't make it better. You can't have this whole principle where, we can ignore these problems because there's a bigger issue here, in the sense that we use an unethical means to deal with it. Does that make sense? Like, you don't, that's not a way to deal with it. Um, that's a very Machiavelli kind of like unprincipled manner to deal with it. Yes, even if a problem is bigger per se, infecting it. Okay, so here's the thing. So I would respond. It's like, okay, well, let me get this straight. So you're upset at liberals for compromising, liberal Muslims for compromising their faith because they're using this very um, Machiavelli means to advance Islam by appealing to liberal principles, right? That's what you're saying, right? That they are willing to give up their principles to associate or be with other people and do this stuff to advance Islam. They want to get more converts. So you're not okay with that, but you're okay when it's the other side, when you're doing it in the other direction. You're okay with compromising your principle as long as it gets what you want. You're okay with putting certain things to the side or not dealing with them or accepting them as long as it helps you to dominate the other side. See what I'm saying? That to me seems like a double standard. I don't think it's not necessarily that it has. It's part of it's because it doesn't have an effect on the reality of the Muslims, because I don't see Muslims doing anything else. Number one, I think that is a problem. I think this is more like a coping mechanism. I think it's a placebo. I think debates themselves can be very beneficial as long as they have an intellectual impact and that they can actually advance something, and that there's actually something being done as well. But they should not be the primary means by which we enhance our faith or produce some sort of pride. What we need to be doing effectively is, like trying to build our education systems and trying to advance in other parts of, the sciences and the world in general, rather than simply rely on debates. Because you can sit here and pwn Robert Spencer all day long, but it's people like Robert Spencer that are still creating policies and laws against Muslims in numerous countries across the world. What are you doing about that? You can sit here and say, Robert Spencer's an idiot, and I agree with you. Great, he's an idiot. We proved him wrong. It's all good to go. But yeah, what does that change? Well, the Muslims have more pride now. Okay, but we're still getting our asses kicked. So what's so proud about that? I can sit here and say, imagine during Al-Andalus, when Al-Andalus was being reconquered by the Spanish Christians, and I was like, and I had a debate, and I lived back then, I had a debate with their king or their queen, and I was like, yeah, she's an idiot. That didn't stop them from slaughtering us. My people still had genocide committed against them. So that's all I'm trying to say. mean, the primary problem with Andalus wasn't the fact that the Kuffar were conquering. It was because we were disunited and we were being unethical in terms of our behaviors. So, I mean, yeah, they can change attitudes, but what attitude are you changing it to? Like, for example, let me ask you, how do I put this? Actually, I lost my train of thought. Lovely. Or did I? Okay, so yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, what do you want Muslims to be? What do you want Muslims to be seen as in a debate? What is your ideal? What is something that you want to see from a Muslim, right? No, that wasn't the problem with Andalus. The problem was that we were fighting each other constantly, and that some Muslim rulers were more concerned about wealth and power. Okay, what does it mean to be Muslim though? Like, what are you looking for in a debate for a Muslim? Do you want them to tell the truth, right? That's let me tell you what I want. I want a Muslim to tell the truth. Number one, out of all things, no matter what it does to them, I want them to tell the truth, right? Okay, so let's just say that's number one. Number two, I want them to make good arguments. Okay, right. Number three, I want them to be well mannered. I want them to showcase how the Prophet, at least to the best of their ability, how he would have behaved. Number three, I don't want them to troll people. Number four, am I number 4 or 5? Anyway, I don't want them to act like a child if they're a grown man. I'd like to see them more stoic and kind of like just, if they want to make a snide remark here and there, that's fine, but don't act like a child. Like, I don't want them to be throwing like juvenile, high school, comments and things like that, right? That doesn't make any sense. Um, I want to see some sort of like professionalism and like an indication that this person is more sophisticated than the other side. That's what I want to see. I do want to see good traits as well, like, having a balanced perspective. I want to see that they are willing to admit to flaws or criticism if it's done to them. I don't want to see grandstanding. I don't want to see UFC appearances of machismo, like, oh, I would beat you up and I'm going to throw you across the room and oh, look at my muscles. Like, I don't want to see that. That's not what I want to see. I'm not 13. I'm a 38-year-old man. Like, I'd see, as a mature male, I don't want to see that. That's not what I'm interested in. And I feel embarrassed when people act like that. I'm just like, why? Why are you behaving this way? Did you just, have you not finished puberty? Is there something wrong? Like, is that so hard to ask? Right? I'm talking about everyone. Like, I don't want to see somebody getting fed grapes by their wife. I think that's cringe. Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not against humor. Like, but I just think some things are just really cringe. You know what I mean? I also don't want to see people complain about their family members being attacked, but then they themselves not care if they attack other people's family members or their loved ones. Right? That's happened a lot of times too. So it's like, you're not allowed to talk about my wife or my kids or blah, 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 blah. But, but I can talk about your family all I want. I don't like hypocrites. I don't like people who don't have ethics or principles. Yeah, I don't like them, and I don't like other people who follow them, and I don't like people who think that that's okay. I don't, because I'm an ethical person. I don't care if you're Muslim or not Muslim. If you think that behavior is fine, we are enemies in a loose sense. I'm not going to come after you or anything, but to me, you're not somebody who can be trusted. I would not hang out with you. Let me just put it that way. I would wash my hands after talking to somebody like that. I just can't handle that. So I'm sorry if that sounds harsh, but that's the type of person I am. You can share which email? Yakin one. Yeah, sure. I still think I have that one. I don't use it much, but I'll look at it. And no, that's not, no, an eye for an eye is, no, that's not an eye for an eye. If you're talking about the family thing, that's not an eye for an eye. You don't attack somebody's family because they attack your family. You attack that person because that's the person who did it. It's the same way as like looking at an extreme example. You don't, if somebody kills your family, you don't kill their family. Their family didn't do anything. Right? Like, why would you kill their family? It has nothing to do with, like, they didn't commit the crime. So why would you kill their family? Same thing. We don't attack people's families just because they attack ours. We attack them. So, yep, that's true. So it's like, yeah, I mean, regardless, for example, if you agree with, no, that's not an eye for an eye. Not according to Islam. That's not what an eye for an eye means. No scholar in our tradition ever said that, for example, it's justified to kill other people's family members. Yeah, we have to be charismatic, but there's a way to be charismatic without being trashy, right? Like without being low class. Like even that whole thing with like Shoaib Webb, like, oh my God, man, like why? Both of them to me just did horribly, and that was just unnecessary nonsense. It just felt like I was expecting both of them to break dance or something, and that, not that they could. I'm just saying, or like a rap battle or something. Yeah, bro, let's talk about Islam. In the palm of my hand, Rand Cali, in Cali. It's like, bro, can you guys just shut the hell up, please? Just walk away. Not wide. Nobody needs to see that. Nobody cares about this. And you had like 12-year-old kids taking videos like it was a fight, like in a school or something. It's disgusting. It's stupid. Michael, what's going to happen? Michael Jackson's going to come out and start singing Beat It. Beat it. Beat it. I think Sneako's low class. He's a very low class person. I have no respect for those sort of people. He's one of these trashy Miami boys who just, yeah, he's not going to go anywhere in life. And yes, I would say that to his face. Who do I respect? God, it's hard. I don't respect many people anymore. That's just how I feel. I don't know. I guess I respect a lot of the Tap brothers still, because I think they're a little ignorant about certain things that they're supporting right now, and I'm having some private discussions with them at the moment. Yusuf Ponders, I respect. I respect John Fontaine. Are you talking about just the Damascene, or are you talking about everyone? I haven't talked to anyone else in a while, and I don't really think about it. Um, uh, I don't know if I respect Jay. To be honest, he's either being really ignorant right now, or he doesn't care. If it's the latter, I don't respect him. So we'll find out. I don't know what's going on with Fareed. Fareed is usually very cordial with me, but I don't know what's going on. I'll put it this way. I'm very skeptical now of a lot of people, but I will say that if they hold to integrity and they're not willing to sacrifice their principles for views, and they're not acting like a bunch of children, and they're doing their best to keep things honest, regardless of who are the non-Muslims and who are the Muslims, then I respect that person. If they don't do that, and I find them to start going with the bandwagon, then they're going to lose all my respect, because that is the number one thing that I judge people's characters by. You can mess up on a lot of stuff. You can even mess up on your integrity as long as you apologize and you don't do it. But if this is something that you've embraced, then I can't trust you anymore. Uh, I don't hate everyone. I think you're being exaggerating because you kind of want me to be part of the bandwagon and you don't want anyone to be critical of this person. That's my interpretation, because I think I have a right to be upset about the lack of principles. This isn't about people. This is about principles. And the fact that there are people who are sacrificing those principles for some greater good that doesn't really exist, to me, is a violation that I don't appreciate. They're not obliged to do, they can do whatever the hell they want, but I also have a right to disagree with that because I think it's a showcase of lacking principles. Yeah, but truth be told, I don't make streams all the time, and I'm not here all the time because I got other things I'm doing. So I come on here, what, once in a blue moon to complain? Yeah, I mean that's fine. They can think that way, but I have every right to feel that. I mean, obviously, because when I come on here, the context of me coming on here is related to that, because I don't do it anywhere else, right? So they can say that all they want, but my life is full of a lot of positives. It's just that when I feel like repenting about this stuff, I come on this channel because this is where this channel lives, is in this scene, right? And that's just the context of it all. But I don't care. Uh, what's a milk bag? Um, but there's some certain there are things that I've become so disillusioned with a lot of stuff that there are times where I'm very apathetic about things, and then it just crosses my mind and I feel like talking about it. It's normal, it's human. I but I have no intention of doing anything coming back to rectify because I know I can't. And it's not out of lack of ability. It's just that there'll be a lack of support because honestly, let's be frank, even some of you in here, you're not going to support me if I start criticizing. You're not going to support me. You're going to tell me to shut up. You're going to tell me don't do that. You're going to tell me that I'm being jealous or emotional or being pessimistic or you're going to gaslight me basically. And you're going to tell me to just go in the back of the corner and sit there. So what's the point, right? Why would I even come out and go, hey, this is factually incorrect? Yeah, but that's the thing is that you want me to be that way because when I start saying the facts, that's the first thing that comes to your mind. Let's say that it's true. Let's say everything that I am saying is based on emotion. Let's say that everything I'm saying is based on jealousy. Let's just assume, because if this appeases you, let's assume that it's true because I know this is what you want, right? This is what you desire. So let's assume it's all true, right? Does that mean that everything that I'm saying is false? No. But if you think it does, then there's something wrong with your reasoning. Because I happen to recall that one of the primary criticisms by certain individuals against DH, for example, was that he was a disgruntled employee, ex-employee. And I happen to recall many of you in this room thought that was an insufficient means to disregard that person's opinion. And yet, some of you in this very room are using the very same things to dismiss my opinion. So maybe you should start thinking a little bit more before you make those comments. Because even if it was true, even if I was Iblis in the flesh, that wouldn't disregard what I'm saying. 2 + 2 still equals 4, right? No, I'm not. I don't think that I'm wrong. I think that there is a lack of principle because one should not tolerate that. You only see people defending the deen? Okay. Well, when I see ISIS, I only see people defending the deen, right? Nope. We should always look deeper than what we see on the outside. What we should see is how it's being done. And if it's not being done correctly, then we should be critical of that. Now, there are flaws. There are people who are always making mistakes because nobody's perfect. Yes. But when you standardize and normalize the bad behavior or the bad standards, that's when it becomes an issue. True. I don't agree with the transcendental argument. Yeah, but the thing is, adab is important. It's actually the most important part of this, but it's being dismissed constantly. It's saying it's insufficient. I'm just asking a simple question. Why is it more important to be connected to one's identity than it is to the principles? Because our principles are not our identity. Our identity are our principles. There's a difference. If a Muslim is lying, we should call it out and say that's unacceptable and I'm not going to accept you doing that. We shouldn't be like, well, it's okay as long as they're beating up the kuffar. It's like, no, that's not what we should do, because now we're just normalizing it. It's like, imagine that, um, imagine that there's, let's just bring up a bigger topic because some people want to talk. Let's say there's a liberal Muslim out there who accepts LGBTQ or something, or not accepts it, but is okay with it or something to some degree. Doesn't come out all full kufr, but because there's such a great arguer, are we going to be okay with that? No. But you're okay with people lying and slandering people? Why? Like, that's not cool. Oh, of course, that's a funny thing. That is true, Muki. Alhamdulillah. So I've been saying this for years. I don't even know why people think it's such a shocking thing. Like, I've been saying this even before all this stuff happened. I was like, yeah, we need to be consistent. And like, even with when the people I was debating online at one point, I thought I was making an example, like saying, hey, this is how we should behave. Like, even if you make a mistake, you should say sorry to the person you're arguing with or debating, or whatever. You should do your best to steelman that person's position. You should do your best not to lie about them. You shouldn't try to like destroy their character, etc. Because it was done to me a lot of times before by other atheists, for example. So like, um, are you joking? Seriously? You know, I don't know if you're aware of this, but there are acceptable forms of lying within Islam. Slander is not among them. Like, you are allowed to lie during war to deceive the enemy. That's part of the lie that's permissible. But you're not allowed to. That doesn't mean you're allowed to like slander somebody you don't like. That doesn't make sense. Like, are you okay with? Are you okay, for example, with if I disagree with this person, that it's okay to accuse me of being a federal agent for the U.S. government when I'm not? I've never even worked for the U.S. government. Like, is that because it's easy? And just because it's effective to get people against me doesn't mean that it's appropriate. Like, it would also be, it's like you also wouldn't, but even during war, there are standards too. Like, even if you're lying about to the enemy, like, oh, where you are and stuff, you can't lie to like, you can't tell your soldiers, oh, they're raping women, so that's the reason we have to attack them, when it's like they're not doing that. You know what I mean? Like, you can't do that. Even if you're fighting that person, you can't be like, well, they're raping women, so let's go kill them. It's like, well, if they're not raping women, you can't say that. That's not true. Like, like, don't do that. Um, that's not a just means to fight somebody if it's not true, right? So that's like, even during war, you can't lie about the enemy. You know, that's false. Um, so that I know it's hard sometimes to follow this stuff, especially when you don't like somebody. But even if you don't like them, like, there have been people I've debated who I despised with all my little heart. Okay, like the masked Arab. He was one of the most dishonest people I've ever met. Um, but I never lied about him. I did everything I could in my power to show everyone that the Muslims were honest, that we were the honest ones, and that we would never compromise on that regardless. And he went out of his way to like slander me and to lie about my arguments. And I had to go to a great amount of effort to prove that all this was false, right? But I was proud of that because I stuck to my principles, even though his slandering was effective. It was actually very effective in the sense that he got a lot of people to hate me and to hurt me and try to attack me and stuff, right? But I still did not compromise because I was not going to do that. I refused. Um, um, so that's Brandolini's law, exactly. So I refuse. I won't do that, even if it's easy. I've had people like Apostate Prophet try to character assassinate me. You know, I've had a lot of people try to character assassinate me. Thunderfoot, all the way back in the day, like, was it almost 12 years ago or something? More than that? I don't even know. I never lied about him either. And he lied about me constantly. But I didn't lie. I refused, because that's not how that's not Islam to me. I can't. I felt like I would be just like him if I did that. You know what I mean? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, why would you do that? And that now we have Muslims doing that, and it makes me upset, because that's everything I've been fighting against, like, for over a decade. You know what I mean? Like, that was like the content, that was the character, the central character trait of a lot of these Islamophobes, like Robert Spencer. Remember when I did a little short series about Robert Spencer and how he was always dishonest? And I went through his book and showed all the dishonesty. Like, that's the primary feature of these people, of these haters, is all this dishonesty and disgusting and lack of integrity. And then I started seeing Muslims do it, and I'm just like, why? Why are you just completely destroying everything that I built? At least in my mind, that I thought I was trying to cultivate within our community online. I just thought it broke my heart. And you think that it's like, oh, I hate this people, I hate this person. It's like, no, I hate what they're doing, and I hate how they're destroying our image. Because while some of you are sitting here going, yeah, we're winning, we're kicking their butts, and I'm looking at this like, for what? What's the point if you're just going to throw away everything that we're fighting for? Because, no offense, you can sit here and say, well, we're trying to make more Muslims. Yeah, but if you're making trashy people, if you're the Islam that you're selling them gives them the justification to be trashy, like Sneeko or even Tate, like, is that really the ummah you're trying to raise? Because that's not the ummah I would want. I mean, I'm sorry if it seems arrogant to you. I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but I'm just kind of like, that, I think I'm the exception, but I'm sorry. It's hard for me not to see it that way, because I literally have not moved an inch away from what I stand for. Does that make sense? Like, I have not. I have seen other people around me change in a very negative way. And I've had to distance myself from long friends because of that. Not simply because of who they ally with, but because of even their positions on what is principled has changed. And I can't deal with that. Yeah, of course, being a Muslim is not being an angel all the time. But being a Muslim should not lead to you justifying your sins. You know what I mean? Like, doesn't being a trashy Muslim is better than a truthful non-Muslim? Um, in what sense? What, in terms of who's going to heaven or not? But if your terms into quality of behavior, no, that's not true. A Fasik is not better than an ignorant or naive non-Muslim who behaves well. I'm sorry. Like, a person going around saying this is Islam and then, like, killing innocent people, that's not better than the non-Muslim who is like, has proper adab. And, like, maybe on the day of judgment, obviously one will be, I mean, we don't know. Allah may have more mercy on the other person, especially if they're ignorant. Right. Excuse me. So it's like, if you're going around like doing all these horrible things, you're like a shaitan. Non-Muslims are, what? That doesn't make sense. Not necessarily. Um, like if you're going around, like if you're in the name of Islam, you're going around like being a serial killer or something, right? And then you have like this non-Muslim person over here who's trying to stop that person. You're going to tell me that, I mean, you can sit here and say theologically, one person will be saved, or they're only going to the fire temporarily or something, even though you don't really know fully how that non-Muslim will be treated because you don't know if they've actually accepted or rejected the truth yet. But like in terms of their behavior, you're not going to sit here and tell me that the serial killer Muslim guy is better, morally speaking. That's not true. That is completely false. Like, you know, it's like, no, I'm sorry. Um, I'm just saying if there is, because I'm sure there could be. I mean, it's not like Muslims can't be serial killers or go around blowing themselves up and killing innocent people. Shirk, yes, in the eyes of Allah, is worse, but when we're talking about that's in terms of like how they will be judged in the afterlife. And even then, the shirk has to be somewhat purposeful in the sense that they have to reject it. Um, if they're completely ignorant, you know, I don't follow that position that they will be sentenced to hell for no reason. Um, but I'm talking about like everyone will be, the Quran very explicitly states that everyone will be tested and everybody will be judged according to their deeds, right? So if you're going to tell me that if in the moment you're looking at somebody like say a Muslim person who claims to be Muslim and he's going around murdering people, like just murdering people left and right, and you got somebody who's not doing that, who's not a Muslim, and you're going to sit here and tell me that that Muslim is more ethical, I would say that's false statement. Why is it oxymoron? I mean, there are Muslim murderers. I mean, look at ISIS, right? Do we consider them Muslims? Yes, shirk is worse than murder. Again, though, when you're saying that a non-Muslim, again, I'm not saying that non-Muslims are all going to heaven. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that somebody who is ignorant of the faith or is not really fully rejected anything, they're going to be judged based on their deeds. And those even who have rejected the faith will be judged based on their rejection of the faith, not on like they're not going to be judged for murder, for example, right? Necessarily, unless they did murder, obviously. Um, I think that it's actually higher, Ali, because just because we have more information today doesn't mean people are less ignorant. Because when you have something called information saturation, people can become more ignorant as a result of being confused about that information. Um, what? Oh, Sheikh Suki, are you really a sheikh? Okay, let's be frank. I already said very clearly that shirk is worse than murder. I'm saying in terms of behavior, what is worse? You're going to say you're going to sit here and tell me that a Muslim somebody who's committing serial killer is even with that action is better than the non-Muslim who's not doing that. That's not true. We should punish that person. We shouldn't like if like the guy if the non-Muslim just walk. Okay, so let me give you an example. If we see a Muslim murdering somebody and there's a non-Muslim over there eating pork, you're going to tell me that you would rather kill the person eating the pork, or because oh he's Muslim so it's okay. That guy's worse. That's what you're going to do. I didn't say it was justified. I said which one are you going to pay more attention to? So if you had like, if a Muslim came into your house, let's say two people came to your house, one's Muslim, one's non-Muslim, and one Muslim guy wants to rape your children or something, and the non-Muslim wants to protect you, you're going to side with the Muslim guy? You're like, well, he's Muslim, so you got to let him rape my kids because, you know, can't side with the kafir on this one because he's kafir. Right. Yeah, but you said shirk is worse, right? So we prefer the Muslim guy, right? So you're going to prefer the Muslim guy raping your children over the kafir who wants to stop them, right? That's what you're saying, right? I mean, that's what you want. So you're going to kill them. So if in that situation, when these two guys walk in your house, you're going to kill the non-Muslim for trying to stop the Muslim guy from raping your kids. That's what you're saying. Okay. I'm waiting for an answer. Is this a simple question? Right? You're gonna side with the not we're gonna side with the Muslim in that one? Okay then. Why? Can you please tell me if you affirm denies propositions? Propositions are conceptual or intentional entities can come into intelligent will. Why does the will? What is that? Why is that contingent on that? Yeah, but I'm just saying because I'm not trying to put you in a situation here. I'm trying to showcase what I think is faulty reasoning, right? Um, Sheikh Suki, I have to be honest with you, son. I don't think you finished puberty, so I'm just gonna have you. I need to put you to bed. Okay. There you go. Anyways, what was I gonna say? Oh, so my point is that you say you would prefer, you know, the Muslim is better regardless of the sin because they're not committing shirk. Okay. And I'm like, yes, shirk is worse than murder, but in that moment, the actions themselves, the behaviors, that doesn't mean that they're better. We don't prefer that person over the non-Muslim. Does that make sense? Like if I'm in a situation where the non-Muslim, I have to like stop like a Muslim person from murdering somebody, I'm going to side with that non-Muslim because by principle, I have to, because that is the right thing to do. I don't care about the identities of the individual. Does that make sense? Like I'm not going to be like, oh, well, he is kind of he's slicing people's throats, but he's a Muslim, and I can't do anything about it because then I'll be a traitor. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say. Like we don't do that. We shouldn't do that. And what I'm trying to say in terms of the Dawa scene is that that's how they're behaving. It's like, well, you know, he's doing all these bad things, but he's our brother, so we gotta support him against the kuffar. And it's like, no, we don't. Like, no, we don't. Like, why? What? Why? Like, just because? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. If the non-Muslim dude is doing is a better performance or behaving in a better manner, I'm not going to be like, well, you know, we got to support the Muslim guy because he's Muslim. Like, no, like, I don't think it's about that time sensitivity per se. You know, because like I said, the argument can be made by Abdul Malik said a very good point. It's like, yeah, well, what if you invest in the good behavior of the non-Muslim and then they become a good Muslim? You know, a better Muslim than the person who's behaving like a jahil. You know what I mean? Like, you can make that argument too. So we have to be careful. Throw it. I'm not really warning. I'm just ranting because of an epiphany I had. No, I'm sorry. I wouldn't do that. I don't care. Okay, so again, I'm not going to support the Muslim if they're doing something that's completely haram and just because they're fighting a kafir. I'm not going to do that. If they're, especially if they're using haram means to do so, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm just not. Like, you know, if I'm in a war and there's a kafir over there, and you know, and I got a Muslim brother next to me, and he starts mutilating that person's body, I'm not going to be like, well, he's a kafir, so it's okay. Like, no. Yep. You approach Musa alayhi salam, approach Fir'aun out of sort of pragmatic reasons, you know, because of his power status, and also because he wanted, hoping the kind words would touch his heart. You know, that was a means to kind of get to his heart. Not to berate him in front of Banu Israel. Yeah, but in what sense? I mean, I don't think Harun was. Well, no, we don't kill the shirk guy, actually, to be frank, um, in the context that I mentioned. For example, we don't kill Christians just because they're Christians, right? But we will murder somebody. We won't, excuse me, we will execute somebody who murders, right? There's a reason for that. But yeah, I agree the liar should be berated. And this is a thing that I think a lot of people don't understand. And I'm speaking from knowledge here, from my own readings of the scholarly consensus on this issue, is that I know this is going to shock a lot of you, but you need to hear it. So, throughout our tradition, all scholars, as far as I can tell, all the ones that I've read on, have mentioned quite clearly, or have even behaved in such a way, where they will accept knowledge from people, even if they are deviants, okay, or if they're kuffar. I'm not joking. They will accept truth statements, even about the religion, regardless of their creed, okay, as a means of evidence. So even when it comes to deviance, for example, the Mu'tazila actually did some amazing tafsir, and even some of them narrated hadith that we still considered sound today. Okay. However, and some of you already know what I'm going to say because you've heard this 100 times. However, there was one reason, one primary reason they would reject a person's testimony or a person's expression of knowledge. Does anyone know what that one reason was? Regardless of their creed, even if they were completely orthodox, even if they're completely on the right path in every sense, there was one reason they would reject. What was the primary reason? Does anyone know? And they would condemn this person publicly for this. If they lied, if they were a liar, if they were caught lying, slandering, libeling people, they would condemn them up and down. They would reject everything they've ever said, regardless of how true it was. They'd be like, nope, not going to take knowledge from you. Even if you wrote volumes, we're throwing them away. So let's be frank. If you really want to follow our tradition, that's I have been trying to teach that, at least from my flawed human self. You know, so yes, I will hang out with somebody. I will you know, I will even accept opinions and stuff from deviant people if I can verify that's true, and I'll be like, you know what, I'll consider that, right? And I'll even have discussions with them, and I'll associate with them, etc. In terms of when we're talking about knowledge and stuff. But the moment one of them lies, I don't care if you're the most purest athari, have the best opinions on fiqh, you can speak perfect Arabic. If you pray every time, if you lie constantly, you slandering and libeling people, I cut ties with you. Or you support that behavior, I cut ties with you. That's what I do. So, and I'm just trying to follow what the scholars did. So if that's an issue, then I'm sorry, but then you take it up with everyone else, okay? Because in the past, I can tell you that from Hajar al-Asqalani to even the great Muhaddith Bukhari and Muslim, to all, even the original, the founders of the four schools of thought, all of them had the same opinion about this. Okay, it's not like this is some random thing that I'm saying. It's out of my butt. Okay, this is exactly what they did. They would condemn openly and say, they would warn everyone, do not take anything from these people, no matter how correct they were in terms of their aqidah. They didn't care. The moment you uttered lies, and you were known for that, you're done. Of course, unless you're repentant. But that's what I'm trying to say. Take care. The punishments were censuring. They would censure, meaning they would basically condemn them publicly. They would warn the public and condemn them openly. Depending on the type of slander, they would lash the person, obviously, especially if it was regarding like zina or something. Their testimony would be rejected in court, and they were not allowed to ever give fatwa or even narrate hadith. Essentially, they were canceled. That was the primary punishment for somebody who lied. If they're caught lying, yes, about significant issues, and especially if it was a consistent pattern, yes, they would be condemned. This is not a opinion. This is consensus, ijma, almost. This is like no scholar would accept from anyone who was like this. Some of them were so sensitive about it that if you were to borrow a book and not return it, that would be sufficient as evidence. So blacklisted is a good way to putting it too. I've spoken to a lot of non-Muslims who were just honestly ignorant, and I just like talked to them normally, and yeah, they were no longer ignorant. I've talked to some people who are very nasty and anti-Islamic. Yeah, of course, that's happened a lot too, but not everyone's the same. Walaikum salam. You as well. It's just like stuff like that. So again, we're not even on that topic anymore, really. I mean, I know this is our brand. This is similar to the specific thing we were talking about earlier, but now we're talking about honesty and stuff. Like, it's just my standards. All I'm doing is expressing my standards. I've been consistent since day one. Okay, none of you could put me on blast for this. I promise you. You can look back. I've been Muslim for 15 and a half years, and since I've been online, this has been my standard. I have not changed because of a person. I've been like this since day one. I've been like this with my enemies since day one. This is not new. So I don't know why some people are kind of shocked about what I'm saying. It's like I've been saying this all day, every day. So, and I think that's one of the reasons that a lot of these particular brothers have never really felt the need to support me or kind of like, or listen to me, because they know that I'm going to put them on blast for this stuff. And they know that I don't compromise. And they're like, well, we want somebody who's more theatrical. We want somebody who's more, brazen and just doesn't care about that, who's willing to get the job done no matter what. And, it gets people's attention and just doesn't care about these little issues like, truth. All right. So yeah, he's not a rapist. He's not a murderer. But yeah, why can't you say that? It makes the non-Muslim look bad. So just go for it. You know what I mean? Like stuff. I'm not saying that's specifically those type of statements were ever made. I'm just making that example. But you get my point, right? And it's like I don't do that. I don't like that style. That's not even a style. That doesn't make any sense to me. What's the point of giving dawah if you're going to be deceptive? It doesn't make sense. I don't know anything much about Jake, to be honest. I don't think these debates are doing any good. I remember when debates were good because they had some like intellectual content, and they were done in a way that was not as, I'm not saying all of them, but most of them felt like they were more academic in the very least. And now they feel like they're like reality TV shows, like the MDD thing. Like even if you look at all the MDD platforms, like I have no respect for it. It's like it feels there's not really any real moderation. It just feels like that's kind of like a what is it, a ruse, and like it's the whole point of it is just to garner views for money, because it's all drama, like very dramatic, very low class. Like I feel like people are just start throwing stuff on stage, and whereas James is gonna be like, yeah, that's fine, you know. Um, what's next? You know what I mean? Who are they going to bring onto this show next? You know what I mean? Like what? You may as well just. There are no standards. Not today. I slept a lot earlier. Yeah, I'm waiting for like James to invite like the Iron Sheikh. John Cena versus the Iron Sheikh. What is the best economic system? They start like freaking throwing chairs at each other and stuff. Well, that may as well. I mean, that's the same thing. It's like Habib, I smish your boy. It's like start talking about epistemology. I episte you like this, and then they start like throwing each other into walls and like, well, I guess he won the debate. Okay, next time on MDD, make sure you put your super chats in, everyone. It's like James, what are you doing? What's next? He's probably gonna have like an OnlyFans debate channel after this. I'm pretty sure. An ideal debate would have parameters. The sort of language that is exchanged would often be not censored per se, but regulated. I would define words at the beginning as only if, as a point of clarification, although I think prior to the debate that should be done so that everyone is on the same page prior, so it's not a waste of time. I do feel as though that if a topic is chosen, that it should be stayed on. Obviously, you can't just like divert your attention away from that. I think that both understanding of what the topic is should also be stated prior to that, and it should be recorded and documented so that there's no shenanigans, because I don't think it's actually being done right now, because it's obvious that some people feel slighted. Well, that's another thing too, is what's the point of winning debate too? Because it's like you say, well, we won the debate, but okay, at what cost? Because, for example, one of the issues I had with the so-called technical wins that are occurring right now in MDD by some Muslims. It's like, okay, but if most of the audience comes away from the debate hating you more or hating Islam, did you really do a good job? Just because you technically won the debate and humiliated the other person according to your audience does not necessitate that it was effective or beneficial. Like, I can go up and humiliate people. I have a lot of snarky comments and stuff. I can go up and humiliate anyone I want. Um, but if at the end of the day, it's like everyone's looking at me, the Muslim, and going, "Hey, you're an arrogant douchebag, and I would never join Islam because of you." I don't think I did my job. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, that would be stupid. Like, that's not the reason I'm there. Oh, that's the key term, inferiority complex. I think there's a better way to resolve an inferiority complex than through a debate. I think an inferiority complex is developed in a way that a debate cannot resolve. um, because when you have an inferiority complex, you're desperate for anything, and your standards drop significantly. I think the only way to really rectify an inferiority complex and produce like a very authentic pride is by doing it the right way through integrity and through the principles that you value. And when you have to skirt those values and adopt the same values of the kuffar in order to win the debate, then that's in the end, the long term, that's just going to affect you worse. So you may get that dopamine effect, that serotonin in the beginning, and be like, yeah, we won, we're Islam, blah, and then we're based. Go make some memes for a week. But is that really going to affect your faith in a positive manner? Because is that how the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam taught people? Is that how he inspired them? I don't think so. He did have discussions with people, but he didn't behave in a low class fashion. And he didn't try to humiliate people either. That wasn't his purpose. And in fact, he was actually corrected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran at one point for being too argumentative, if you don't happen to recall, with the Quraysh when he ignored a blind man. Of course, he rectified that. So there are points in time where even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that, hey, this excessive discussion and stuff is not always positive. To what point, though, Shoaib? I'm very pessimistic. Because I've also seen people say, well, I became more religious because Khabib won UFC. And I'm just like, I don't know if that's good. Like, okay. And it's like, just because your team wins, it doesn't mean what you think it does. Yeah, that's the thing too. I even saw. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna be frank. I know it's gonna make some people mad, but it's like when Morocco won, almost won the World Cup or something, got really far, and everyone was like, "Oh, yeah, mashallah." I'm just like, really? That's what's making your faith go up? That's a problem. That's a problem. Um, yeah, that's why it kind of bothers me, because it's like, yeah. I mean, Allah brings people to the faith. Yes, that's correct, through any means positive. But I don't think it should be a standard, like sporting competition should be a standard by which people become more religious. I think that's causing a very superficial, like, it can be an entry point, but if it's like what you rely on, that's a disaster waiting to happen. Um, I'm ready. Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Walaikum jazakallah khair. Bless you and your family as well. Yeah, the smash your boy comments are fine within the UFC because that was contextual to the fight. But it's like when you use that commentary in a debate or something, it's like that's cringe. I'm gonna smish you. Smish. Yes, Abdullah Al Andalusi conducts himself extremely well in many of these debates. He does. He has the proper etiquette that I would regard as standard. Although I have fallen into disagreement with him lately regarding some other things, but I will not discuss that here. But I just want to be clear that despite my disagreements, I would concur with you that his debate etiquette is probably the finest within our community. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. And that's also not saying that he's perfect, but I'm saying that he probably exhibits the best form, the best adab. 7 years ago. So I should go to bed. It's late. What am I doing up? Oh. Oh, God. I gotta play games, yeah. I'm staying up late tonight for a reason because I need to finish something that I haven't beaten in a while. Am I ready to get in debates? No, I've given up. And you're probably thinking, well, you can't say anything. Well, no, I tried for a long time. I mean, Robert Spencer rejected a debate with me. David Wood rejected a debate with me. I think everyone directly, yeah, everyone rejected a debate with me. And then just like nobody wanted to support me getting into debates, really. So I was just like, all right, whatever. And then after a while, I just became apathetic and I didn't care anymore. So I don't really feel the need to. I just don't care. And again, like it doesn't bother me. It's just I just don't care. I don't think it's very beneficial these days because the way the debates are formed, it's more of an entertaining thing. It's not really for learning or for even getting any real sense of pride in one's faith. I think it really is a lot of false pride. And I think, and because I mean, look, let's be honest. Like, okay, look at these debates. Ask yourself a serious question, okay? Let me ask you a question. When you watch like a lot of these chats and you look at the Muslims, right? A lot of them commenting in there, they've already made up their mind like 5 seconds in. The same way that the atheists or the Islamophobe side has made up their mind, they actually all behave similarly too. Like if you okay, do an experiment. Do an experiment. Put your hand over like the names of everyone in the chats during these debates and tell me if you can tell the difference. Because I can't. So that's all I'm going to say. Like the atheist says based, the Muslims say based. They all use vulgar language. They're all just insulting each other. It's just crazy. It's disgusting. I'm not famous. I would never want to be famous. Oh my god. I hate. I would hate that so much at this point. I've come so accustomed to being like left alone that it's become like a treat for me. Um, it's just like I love the fact that nobody bothers me because I can't imagine like I mean I've seen like some really famous duat, and I've also not in terms of like the Taoist thing. I'm talking about like offline. Like when I see like famous speakers and stuff, I hate the way they live their lives. Oh my god, I cannot imagine. I don't understand how they can deal with it because they're getting called all the time. Like wallahi, like you can't sit down and talk to one of these people for like more than a few minutes. Um, because they're constantly getting called or people are walking up to them or they don't even get sleep half the time, they barely see their families, they're always traveling. It's like, bro, like this is what you want? Like I generally don't like people. Like why? No offense intended to anyone, but it's like I can't be around a crowd of people for more than a couple of minutes, you know what I mean? I can't, it's like, and it's like I I can't believe that I fell into this idea when I was a little younger that this is something that I wanted to do because the more that I looked on the outside and I was in like looking at their lives and I was just wondering to myself like no, like I like my privacy and I like having time to myself and not being bothered. Not to say that I don't like helping people, I do, but I want to have my schedule. Like I don't want people to control the way that I do things. You know what I mean? Like and I don't want to have to always put on a face or put on like some sort of like because people have an expectation of you when you have this sort of mythos that's built around your popularity, right? So it's like I don't want to have to always appeal to that. Like, I want to walk outside in my pajamas sometimes and just not give a crap. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? And that's a metaphor. Like I want to be able to like just not care what people think. Yeah, I want to be free. Exactly. And it's like that's comforting to me. And the idea that like hundreds of thousands of people can literally control the way that I present my ideas, or I have to like watch the things that I say, even if I'm being innocent about it. Um, that even when I was famous, semi-famous, which whatever, I got a couple thousand people following me. That always bothered me. That I had to clarify things, or I had to edit things, or I had to apologize if I offended certain people. And it's just like and after a while, I was just like, I'm done. I'm tired. I don't care anymore. Like, just go away, please. you know, um, I want to go play video games. So yeah, that's the problem, and I'm not saying that these people look, and let's throw a branch out, because people think that I only think negative things. I think that some of these people who are doing this stuff, like even DH, has some positive qualities. I'm not going to mention them, and I'll tell you why. Because I don't want to normalize the bad ones by saying that, because there's a perception that if you mention these positive, oh, you see, he's being balanced, so we can accept all that stuff. It's like, no, there are some positive things, okay, and but they're overshadowed by the consistent bad behavior. And I'm not going to play this game where it's like, oh well, I can forgive this terrible stuff for all this other things. I'm not going to do that. I think that it needs to stop being normalized, So I will say that yes, not everyone is perfect, obviously, and everyone has positive qualities too. Even the people I disagree with have positive. Many of my enemies had some positive qualities. Okay, even the non-Muslims had some positive qualities. But I'm not going to sit there and be like, yeah, you're a lying scumbag, but you got nice hair. I'm not going to do that. I'm sorry. Like that's not that's not my mo. Um, so yes, we should be balanced, but when it comes down to like trying to rectify something, I'm not going to excuse it. You know what I mean? So that's the point I'm trying to make. It's like, yes, I do have nice hair. Thank you. But the point, it's like, who cares, right? if the other thing is happening. Basically, that's it. Yeah, I'm very arrogant. I'm okay with that. Just kidding. But the point is that you see, you get my point, and I'm tired now, so I'm becoming extremely incoherent. I need to go now. Try to finish. I'm probably gonna go to sleep. But hey, thanks. It was fun. So I'm closing comments. I don't hate anyone. I love everyone for the sake of Allah, but I'm disappointed. I'm hurt. I feel like none of this stuff should be happening. It's not about me. I don't care. I don't have a channel anymore. Even though I'm on here talking to you guys, I'm going to put it down after this. I don't have a channel anymore. I don't have any money in this. I don't have any reason to have fame. I don't want fame. I don't want any sort of attention whatsoever. The only reason I'm here is because I like expressing my thoughts. So I don't have nothing to gain from this. I'm just genuinely, it sucks to see our own people just not abide by standards that we should abide by. And it sucks because you put a lot of faith into people too. You put a lot of faith into your brothers and sisters, and you expect them to behave like brothers and sisters, right? And then they don't, and it just hurts. It hurts on a level that it's not a personal thing per se, but it hurts on a level of just like, it makes you disillusioned, and it just disappoints you, and it hurts your faith in the community, and that's all I'm asking you all to do is just like abide by those things. And I don't see why people see me as an enemy for simply asking for that. That's all I'm asking for. If you can't do that, then what's the point of any of this? What's the point of spreading Islam if you're not going to abide by integrity? Because again, the primary characteristic that the Prophet ﷺ had, the real reason that people followed him, okay, and this is mentioned throughout the Sirah, mentioned throughout numerous hadith, the primary reason that people followed him wasn't because of the miracles of the Quran. That wasn't. That's a secondary thing. What was the primary reason? Does anyone know what was his primary characteristic before he became a prophet? What was the one thing people knew him as? Everyone knows this, right? If you read honesty, yes. The entire nature of his claim, the entire revelation was based on that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed it through the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam because he was created as an honest person. And because it was on that foundation that people trusted what he was saying. It wasn't simply because of how he was saying it or because of some of the miracles. Even his enemies admitted it. Yes. They couldn't, and because they couldn't destroy his integrity, because they couldn't find a fault with his integrity, even their accusations against him were not taken seriously. Does that make sense? So, I don't think I've been influenced by Western philosophy. I'm just using a fitra argument. I'm not that strong, and I admit that openly. The thing is, I don't have to be either. It's not my obligation. I've done what I'm supposed to do. I warned everyone accordingly. I did everything I could to advise, and I'm not going to waste my life, pardon me, on a select group of people. I have to take care of my family and stuff, so I'm not going to just make videos all day attacking everyone and trying to like bring everyone back and stuff, because that's not my responsibility anymore. So if they want to go down this path, that's their problem. That's what I've resigned myself to. So, and I'm sorry if that's considered to be a bad thing, but I'm not going to sacrifice my own soul or my own mentality, my own emotional health, my own wife and daughter, just to try to get these boys in line. Like it's just not. It's not my purpose anymore. So, and yeah, my predictions are coming true, by the way, not because I have some sort of foreknowledge. It's just that the patterns are pretty obvious. Um, so whatever. The- Inshallah. I pray for the best, Shoaib. I'm not, I pray for the best after the worst has occurred, but I highly anticipate things are going to collapse. Um, so that's what has to happen. So, you know, maybe the next generation will be a little bit more conscious of these things. I post occasionally here and there. Shaib, you are a very optimistic person who really wants the best, and I commend you for being so positive. But again, I think that that is a partly a mistaken approach, not because necessarily I want negativity, but because I feel like it helps to kind of normalize it in a way that is not helpful. I feel like there is not a lot of people holding these people to account, and you're sort of just like they've kind of buckled under the weight of the popularity, and they just no longer care anymore because it's more beneficial for them to just get on the bandwagon. And I think that is a they're swallowing poison, and they're doing it intentionally, and that is a dumb thing. And the best thing you could do to help them right now would be to wish for them to experience that flaw to its highest degree, because that's the only way they're going to learn. So if they become successful through this method, I promise you that this sort of lack of proper behavior, will become worse, and you're going to start seeing things that you don't want to see, um, and it's going to be terrible. Because if you think some of the blunders made in the current debates and stuff are bad, wait, I mean, it's going to get more brazen, more bold. There are going to be things that are going to be said that are going to be more shocking, more deviant, because they know they can get away with it. Because everyone's going to say, well, they're fighting the kuffar, so it's okay, and and it's just going to get worse. Um, so it's gonna come true. Sorry. I hope I'm wrong too, but it's pretty true. You'll see. Um, okay. Well, yeah, they do. I mean, it's okay to be a layperson. It's not. I mean, it's not okay. Like, I'm not saying that you should settle on that, but it's not like it's condemnable. If you do Dao, you do Dao. You give what you know, right? But you need to know how to do it. And of course, there's a time to be calm and collected, and there's a time to be harsh, especially when you're debating. Sometimes you gotta have to be kind of like firm, and like you do have to practice the proper eye for an eye thing, but that shouldn't be the standard. Constant hostility shouldn't be your thing. It shouldn't be like making grunts during debates, and making silly noises, interrupting people constantly, talking about their significant others, and just being trashy. It's just not a proper means to do anything, even if the other person's acting like a douche. Like, you know what I mean? Just don't do that, please. God, I half expect next time all these next debates are going to be like people holding up memes the whole time. Nobody's going to talk. Just be like, look at my meme. I made this funny meme about you, bruh. It's based. I win. Uh, you know what I mean? It's like that. So, you know, regardless of how you feel about it, it wasn't appropriate to bring that up. There was no reason to. Um, it's like if somebody's saying that you are a bad person, you don't suddenly go after another person who has nothing to do with it, even if you disagree with their lifestyle. If you think it's haram, you don't go, hey, it's like the whole thing with what happened to Destiny. It's like he starts insulting the prophet, and you got a bunch of Muslims like threatening to kill his mom. And I'm just like, what does she have to do with that? Insult Destiny all you want, but you're going to threaten to kill his mother? What the hell? Like, that doesn't make any sense. It has no logical connection whatsoever, and it's completely unethical. Like you can do whatever you want, but that doesn't make any sense. That happens a lot too, actually. I've actually run into people like that online. I've caught ex-Muslims acting like Muslims online all the time, and some Islamophobes. It's not easy because they're usually very anonymous, but they say and do certain things that's very obvious. And then they do the stupid thing where they brag about it in another forum, and you just look it up on Google, and you're like, well, look, they're like, hey guys, look what I'm doing over here. Like I'm what's it? I'm trolling this guy over here, and then you're like, dude, and you just take a picture of it, and you're like, I know what you're doing. Like, you think you're high? I can't use like a search engine. What's wrong with you? It's so stupid. Like some of the ex-Muslims on the Reddit forums, like some that's what they do. I'm not joking. Like they actually like start advertising what they're doing in real time on Reddit, and like it's a public forum. Like, like this is just so stupid. Um. Oh God. Anyways, I'm done. Okay, I'm officially done. All my thoughts are out. I'm finished. I'm going to sleep. Final four. No, go away. Um, go to sleep, all of you, or do whatever you need to do. I don't know if it's morning over there. Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Take care. I'm out.